Hey guys, today we have a Toyota Levin BZ O-ring. The car was dropped into us, needed a little bit of work done. It was burning oil pretty bad, it was down in compression, and when we pulled the head off it, we got the valve replaced on it, on the cylinder that was down in compression. We replaced the valves and oil seals, which were pretty badly worn. And while we had the head off it as well, we said we'd go ahead and replace the piston rings as well. And while we were that far, we ended up doing the big end bearings as well, just while we had the pistons out as well. It's no harm. They weren't bad, but you know, while we were in that far, we might as well have got them done. Basically, when we put the whole car back together again, we let it heat up. It was actually running pretty smooth, sounded well, and the more it warmed up, the more of a ticking noise we got in it, and it was nearly like the sound of maybe a tappet that needed adjusting, like a bad tappet, like there was a pretty bad tap out with ticking noise, you know. So I ended up doing a bit of research on it, and they were saying that the VVT pulleys in them, which is on the inlet manifold, which is this one here, give a bit of trouble in them. So they were saying that you have your solenoid on the front here for your VVTi pulley, which is here, and has two pins on it on the inside, and you can see them there now. It's basically two pins. So if you're having an issue and you want to eliminate the VVTi pulley out of it, you basically warm up the car until you get the ticking noise in it, and you'll need to put power to one pin and an earth wire to the other pin. And when you do this, you put the power, your 12 volt power to this pin, and an earth to the second pin. And once you've done that, if the noise goes out of it, basically when you're putting the 12 volt power to this, it's engaging your VVTi pulley. And if the noise stays in it, you know you've something else, you know, you have a bigger issue maybe. And if the noise comes out of it, you know it's in your VVTi pulley. So we've gone and done that, and when the ticking noise is in it and we put a 12 volt supply to it, the noise went out of it. So we know the fault and the noise is in the VVTi pulley. So we went and got a new pulley ordered. I don't know where it is. We ended up having to go to Toyota for this. You can't get them spurious, so you have to go to Toyota to get them. And unfortunately, they're not cheap at all. I think we're here in Ireland, and it cost the customer, I think it gave her a price of €500. I think she ended up getting it for $450 in the end. Still no, it's an expensive bit of kit, so you want to make sure that it's definitely your VVTi pulley noise before you go ordering this in. You don't only spend 500 quid on it when there's no need to replace it. So I'm just going to basically go through what we need to do on replacing this. I actually had all the time belt covers and a few bits off of this already. So for this job, you will need to pull off your time belt covers. You'll need to take off your water pump pulley, your crankshaft pulley. You're going to have to take your rocker cover off as well, this. So you'll need to pull your plug leads out of all the cylinders, and you'll have to take out these 3 bolts here on the top, and that's just so when we're loosening off the bolt on the pulley, we can get a spanner or an initial spanner on the camshaft pulley. The camshaft pulley itself has like a little section on it that you can get a spanner or an adjustable spanner on it, just so you can hold on to it. You don't want to be just loosening the bolt off, you know. You don't want to kind of jump too loose on the timing belt or anything like that, and kind of mess up your timing. So I'll just show you basically where you need to put your timing marks, where your timing marks are, and how to line it up. It needs to be basically, when you're lining up your timing marks, it's to top dead center of cylinder number 1. So that's basically just bringing the piston right up to the peak of its travel, and that's where we need it to be. So I'll just show you the marks on it. There's one on the crankshaft, I'll show you that now. Right. I don't know if you can see it there now. I'll just have to get a little light in there for it. Basically on the crankshaft pulley, I'm just going to screw it in. Basically on your crankshaft pulley you have like a little notch out of it, and then on the actual engine itself there's a little pin that sticks out. Quick look at it there, it's pretty hard to see with the camera here now. See it there? It's a lot easier to see it when you're looking at it yourself. The camera isn't doing a great job of showing you. Basically, you need to line up your little notch on the crankshaft pulley to that little bit that sticks out of the engine. And then on the top, you have the line. On your exhaust, you have basically a little line slitted across the exhaust pulley, and on the VVTi pulley you have it basically on one of the teeth, one of the tooths there, that there's a little circle on it. So you need to have this circle directly across in the center of the line here on the exhaust pulley. As you can see there. You can see it there now. So basically them two need to be at, the inlet one needs to be at 3 o'clock on the inlet, and the one on the exhaust, the line needs to be at 9 o'clock. And then just make sure your little notch in the crankshaft pulley is meeting the little dot on your engine block. Once we get that done, we will then need to pull the time belt off. So for that, once you have your marks done, we'll need to take off these two 10s here, 1 and 2, and just pull the tensioner off, and that'll take the tensioner, or the tension off the tensioner pulley, should I say, and we'll be able to take our time belt off. So we'll just go ahead and do that now. So now we have the rocker cover off it. Like I was saying earlier on, it's the inlet pulley that we're replacing. So if you were to try just loosen this off now, it'll just try to rotate the camshaft itself. You know, you might do more damage if the piston, if the valve basically pushes off the piston and you're trying to open that bolt. You could be doing damage, slightly bending them. You want to try to avoid that as best you can. Same with the exhaust. If you do that, the valves are going to touch the pistons, and if you put more pressure on them, it could bend them. That kind of stuff, you don't want to be doing that. So when you take off your rock cover and you want to let off either camshaft bolts, basically on the camshaft here, you can see, you know, you can see it there now, but it's kind of slotted as such, like the rest of it's smooth, and you can see that it's just flat spots all around this that you can get an adjustable spanner onto it and hold it, and then let off your camshaft bolts. So on the exhaust one, you have it in the center, and on the inlet one, you can see that there's more lobes for your extra valves and your intake. See all the extra lobes, and then the exhaust, you don't have as many. So on the inlet one, it's actually at the end, so it is. So you need to get your certain size spanner. It could be a 24, or if you just want to get an adjusted spanner and adjust it to correct it, the exact size. It's probably the easier option to do. So that's what we need to go ahead and do now. Just need to get a spanner on that, or adjustment spanner on it, let off this pulley, tap it off, and we'll get our new pulley on it. So as you can see there now, there's a 14mm bolt on your inlet manifold, and the adjustable spanner on the other end holding the camshaft in place. So you might need 2 hands to do this, or maybe even a friend to give you a hand, open it up depending on how tight it is. I'm giving it a go here myself. Yeah, that'll be pretty easy. It might be a little bit difficult to get off. Again, we've had ours off recently, stripping the head for all the work it's after getting, so I'm hoping it'll come out a little bit easy, but if everything's been on here a long while, it could be a little bit more difficult to get out. And just after seeing there's actually a little rubber dampener here with a 10mm nut in it. I've just gone ahead and loosened that. Take the whole rubber dampener off. See it there, 10mm nut. Just loosen that off, take it off, and then that gives us plenty of room in the fuller camshaft. VVT pulley out. And that's that. That's your old. That's our new. And you can't really see into them or see what goes wrong with them. I'm sure there's some sort of magic that goes on the inside of these yokes. So we'll go ahead now and get our new pulley on. And just one more thing before we go any further. We fitted a camshaft pulley, but on the pulley itself you can see there's 2 dots on it. Just there. There's one there and another one just there. So when you're going back on, once your camshaft hasn't moved, on the inside of this there's actually a keyway, a little circle keyway. You see on the left, there's a little keyway, and on the camshaft it has a pin that sticks out of it. So it does. So once you put the camshaft back into it, I'll just tap it out there. Show you. So when you're putting your camshaft pulley in, it'll go in, but you know it can spin. And you'll be thinking, what the hell am I going to do here now? I don't know where it goes. You just put a little bit of pressure on it as it's going in, and just give it a wriggle left or right once you hear it clicked in, and you know then you're in the right place. If you see the pulleys as well, want the back of the pulleys here, this side of it, be in line with each other. So if you see this one stepped out a little bit more, you know that there's an issue, you need to get it a little bit further. So once you've got that all put back in, we can put a 40mm bolt back in. Like so. And then we'll have to get our spanner on this, and our little spanner is still there, and just tighten it up. the torque settings for this bolt here now. Before we go any further, we're going to be over tightening it, or maybe under tightening it, and if it's loose and falling off, then you'll be back to square one, replacing valves and whatever else you have to do, whatever damage you do along the way. So we'll find out there now. Okay, so for this bolt, you need to tighten it to 47 millimeters. So you're going to need a torque bar. And you're going to set it to 47 millimeters. So with the torque bars, as you tighten it, once you set it your millimeters to 47 and you're tightening it, you should hear a click when you got to the 47 millimeters. I don't know if you heard it there. Let's do it once more. So that's it. That's your tighten. You don't want to go any more than that. And now we'll need to just align back up our marks. Just when you're loosening it off, it may have moved slightly. So just double check your marks. See there, actually this tooth is slightly higher than the line is. So we need to get our drilled hole basically in the tooth perfectly in line with the exhaust. So we'll just go ahead and do that now. Perfectly in line now. So now we can start putting our time belt back on, tensioner back on, and just make sure as well that your bottom mark hasn't moved. Once you've got all your time belts set up and your top marks on in line, always check your bottom mark as well. It hasn't moved. As you're putting the belt on, it may cause it to pull left or right away from the time belt mark. So just be sure that when the time belt's on and your tensioner is back on, that all your marks will line up before you go starting anything up. As I was saying before, if they're any way off, you're going to do damage. It's an interference engine, so you're going to bend a valve, break a valve, God knows what you'll do. So we'll go ahead and start getting the time belt back on. So our time belt's back on now. Let's see our two marks on the camshaft just here. Our line up to zero. And our time mark on the crankshaft. The tensioner is out. We've replaced on it. They're a one-time use tensioner. Some lads press back in the hydraulic pin that's in it, but we've gone ahead and replaced with a new one. You don't want to take the chance. I'm pushing the one back in just in case you get any problems. And it comes with a little pin. You just need to release this. Like that. Once the pin's released, the tension will then come onto your time belt. Once this is done, you need to rotate the engine 2 times, 2 revolutions of the crankshaft, and we'll check and we'll try and marks line back up. So we've done 2 rotations of the crankshaft, and you can see the time marks and line back up where he should. And the crankshaft mark is line back up where it should as well. And that's it. Jobs are done. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe.